Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tokyo FinTech podcast. Today, we welcome Assaf Marco, who is the General Manager of Sompo Cyber Security. Good morning, Assaf. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So Sompo, of course, is one of the three mega insurers here in Japan that basically split the market among them. But you're not directly in the insurance business. You're creating a subsidiary focused on cybersecurity services. Maybe we'll explain that to the listeners a bit more.
Yes, actually, it's very interesting. It's kind of new thing that is happening in Japan to create innovation in the new business. Sompo, I think, was a pioneer at that. What our CEO said that the insurance is going to decline as we go. It will be change anyways, and he wanted to create new business for the company. So Sompo established a digital lab in Tokyo. Their mission was to create new opportunities for Sompo. My boss saw that it doesn't matter which digital business you're going to do, the security part will be very meaningful for it and for the future. So he started to investigate and research. Actually, he started the Sompo Cyber Security project/business 2 years ago. Ever since then, also the digital lab of Sompo expanded to 2 offices, one in Silicon Valley and the other one in Tel Aviv in Israel, which their mission is to explore new technologies and new business and to adopt it in Japan and in Sompo. The security started, I think we went to business around October 2018. I joined the company in September 2018, and we actually started from 2 technologies that we brought from Israel, which we are still focusing on. One is PanArrays, which is a third-party risk assessment. Very interesting. We can talk about it later. And the other one is threat intelligence by Verint. But ever since then, we expanded in human resource, in solutions, and of course, in the market.
So do you run your own independent P&L for this unit?
So actually, I'm in charge of, we call it product strategy. Product strategy team currently is 3 teams. Because we're kind of new venture, so we still have small teams, but the functions are very meaningful because they're going to expand. My team is, as I mentioned, divided by 3 teams. One is the pre-sale team, engineering team. The other one is the technology team, which is, we call it our brain, developing new services for the market. And the third one, which is another combination, is with the small to medium-sized, focus on the small to medium-sized businesses and marketing. So this is the product strategy. And of course, in our P&L, we have sales. We also have operation team and business support. So that's my role in this.
Got it. Thank you. And so you mentioned the Israeli companies that you brought in first, but you also said you have the technology team developing your own product. So you're both actually analyzing the market, seeing what is out there, what is best of breed type of solution, and where is the gap in the Japanese market. You then develop your own.
So we're not currently, we're not developing our own. If you bring technology from outside, any foreign technology, it has to be developed to the Japanese market, localized to the Japanese market. If it's a service or if it's a product, then you have some commercialization step that you need to take. And this is the role of this team. So yes, we try to find a gap in the market. We do some scouting with our Israeli friends, Israeli office. And then we start with the product pricing, promotion, adjusting the service that will fit the Japanese customer and so on.
Understood. So it's more the localization part. And you mentioned the SME segment in particular, which of course is the bulk of the Japanese businesses are SME companies. So it's a huge part of the market. Are there any sectors you're focusing on specifically, any industries?
Not specifically. The SMB market worldwide is kind of security neglected. I think it's a very weak link. It's a part of the chain of enterprises. And I think globally, it's a very important place to build up security. There's not a lot of awareness to the business owners and budget. So you need to adjust the product and the service that you're going to bring to this market and have to invest a lot in promoting and educating the market. The SMB, we are dividing it all businesses into the medium size. The definition is more focused on the budget and the capabilities of the business. So if you have a medium-sized business, which is, let's say, in a sensitive market, like where you come from, the financial market, so on. So I think the awareness, the risk level, they have more awareness, and of course they're locating budget for that. And the solutions are much like the enterprise level solutions, but probably a little bit less extended or a lighter version of the enterprise level. In the small size companies, that's a real challenge. I think that enterprises understand the risk, as I mentioned, as they are part of the supply chain, and the service level should be good enough for protection. This is what we're doing in Sompo Cyber Security. We're focusing on the protection level, and it needs to be light enough and economical enough that it makes sense for the company to take it. And how are you going to install it? How are you going to reach to hundreds of thousands of businesses? It's not like enterprise where you have it centralized management and you can, make enrollment and the security team would do all the rest. With the small businesses, actually, you have to also consider how are they going to install the product. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think when we had Matsubara-san at our meetup, she was quoting some survey that was done Kansai area, and the outcome was that the small businesses have the equivalent of $5,000 to spend on cybersecurity on average, which doesn't really buy you much protection. So how can you possibly scale your business to hundreds of thousands of clients that only have such a small wallet size?
It's a mess market. This is how you're going to expand. We are looking only at Sompo's insurance company. They have more than 300,000 small businesses that they're insuring, not in cyber, in other things. Miho is coming from NTT, so you understand that there's a big competition in getting those and getting to penetrate this market because it's a mass market. And you can do the calculation by yourself. If you have, I think it's more than 20% of the economy, so it's $5,000 one by one, looking to extend. And as I mentioned before, the way to expand it and the way to make installation, you have to think of some kind of digital platform in order to have everybody to support all those kind of businesses.
So when I'm a client of Sompo, do you already offer cybersecurity insurance? And so if I use also your services, then on what standard I'm actually protected and I get a discount on my policy?
Cyber insurance is in an early stage. Sompo has a lot of motivation to get ground in this area when it comes to cyber insurance. But if cybersecurity in Japan is, I don't want to say early stage, but it's, evolving. I think that insurance is one step behind. So the way to calculate the risk, the way to build up a policy is still early, but we do offer, of course, insurance for SMBs, and you can get it with some of our services as well.
Okay, so the market development would be to make sure that there is a base level of cybersecurity in the first place, and then collect also data through that you need essentially in the underwriting process to price it correctly then.
Correct, yes.
And so you were saying earlier at the beginning also that Sompo is branching out into different areas. And so cybersecurity is one. What are other businesses outside of insurance that Sompo is engaging in?
There are a few, it's a little bit early to talk about, but I can tell you that Sompo Digital Lab in Israel and also in Silicon Valley are thinking about many business opportunity and digital business opportunities in many fields. Automotive. Sompo is one of the biggest automotive insurer in Japan. And we are looking how to complete our service with a digital automotive solution in many aspects. Cyber is one of them. We're looking for InsurTech, of course. InsurTech is a big market globally. And how are we going to digitize the insurance capabilities in Japan as well? We're also looking for, I think they're looking for us in agriculture. Agriculture is a big market in Japan and is changing how to digitize some of it. And I think these are the main things.
So you bring up Israel a few times. Obviously, it's startup nation. There's so much going on, and the ties between Japan and Israel have been improving dramatically over the last 6 or 7 years. You're obviously born and raised there. How do you view that whole relationship, and which role have you played throughout your career in helping Israeli companies with the market entry here in Japan?
I think that it's amazing the attraction that we have between Israel and Japan nowadays. Before the COVID-18 situation, we had, I think, every week there's a delegation from Japan to Israel and vice versa. So I was a part of the Israeli embassy. In my role, I used to promote the Israeli cyber industry and physical security industry in Japan. So I had the chance to be a part of it, a part of bringing those two nations together. The embassy, and they are still doing a really amazing job with their partners in Israel, is to trying to facilitate the situation to make the best out of it by all kinds of events and delegation and company support. And I was part of that. When I first started my role, I think that not a lot of company knew about Israel, so I really had to be a little bit rude and actually knock on every door of a Japanese enterprise and trying to show them a little bit about Israel and Israeli innovation and how the Israeli startup can support those enterprises. I'm very happy from the result currently. I think cybersecurity is one of the biggest interests between the two countries. One of the things that we have done is trying to build a framework between the two governments. So we did that with METI, the Ministry of Economy, here in Japan and in Israel, and also with the Ministry of Communication. Both of them, I think, are the leading offices for cybersecurity. So we build a framework between the two countries, and I'm very proud of it, and I hope it will continue. What I'm doing today is trying to take it a step forward with the actual business relation. And for me, it's very interesting to see, we have two different business cultures, two different how to conduct those relationships. And I'm still in the middle of it. So it's very interesting to see how to bridge it and make it happen. And hopefully it also will have business success as well. So I'm really happy of what is become and how to move it forward. It will be really, really interesting to see.
Talked a little bit about the culture. Many of the presentations I've seen from Israeli startups or also from the trade minister talks about the Israeli culture being very direct, which is then 180 degrees opposite of the Japanese way of doing things. How do you feel personally in the middle now? Are you 50% Japanese, 50% Israeli? And how do you help companies adjusting to that when they come to the market for the first time?
That's a good question. I'm becoming 98% Japanese. I don't know if it's a compliment or not. I learned during my time here to be, in Japan, you call it aggressive. In Israel, it's normal. So becoming less direct, I guess, and more patient. We always laugh about it. I have another colleague, which we brought from Israel, a cyber expert, and we are talking to each other how we became more peaceful when we are in Japan, which is different from our personality changes in Israel. But yes, now that I'm also have a management position to see how to convey a message to my managers, to the team, that's a real art. So yes, we have a big difference in culture. I can see that also from the Israeli side. For me, I'm telling them, if you want to be aggressive, I think they are feeling very comfortable talking to me. And I know they really want to be more aggressive and to gain more market share. So I'm kind of keeping everybody in distance. And I think Japanese team is doing a great job because they know how to penetrate the market, what kind of steps we need to take. I hope it's going to work good, and the business and time will tell.
So it's really finding a good product that you think has market potential here and then using people versed in Japanese business practices to push it out in the very unique way that is specific to the Japanese market.
Yes, exactly.
You also talk about managing a team, and given the situation we're in, when we prepped for this, you mentioned that you're all working remotely now. And maybe for a little bit longer, which is also a complete change to how Japanese businesses have operated before, which is really an in-person business culture. So how do you see your team adapting to that? And are there any tips or tricks, any small things that you've implemented to help this transition?
Actually, I'm surprised and amazed how things work. I think the sense of urgency in Japan exists because, of the natural disaster. This is one thing it feels very natural. One day we decided that we're going to work from home, and that's it. I had my message to the team. We're going to work from home. Try to make yourself comfortable however you can. And that's it. We're doing, web meetings all the time. There are, of course, few things which are not working, which can work better if we are doing face-to-face, but it's really not a must. And I'm really surprised how things will change. I think that things will be different in Japan. Maybe if you're talking to another, foreign company, it doesn't make such a it's not a big deal to work from home because most of the tech companies can work from home or have some kind of flexibility in that. But, you probably know Japan better than me. It's quite a change. It seems that most of the Japanese economy is going to work like that. Most of the businesses are going to work from home. The emergency situation was lifted, I think, 2 days ago, and we decided that we're going to continue with the same work style. Maybe have 1 or 2 people just answering the phone if we need it. And I guess it's going to continue in the next year or so. Let's see what will happen. I'm really curious. For now, it seems like everything is working good. I took my position in April 1st in the new Japanese financial year. I haven't met my team face-to-face. That's my first time doing that. And not only me, and we have new managers that also haven't met their team face-to-face, only via the laptop. So it's interesting, it's really interesting how the leadership actually changes. How do you lead people from the screen? Many things, I guess, will change, and we need to adjust accordingly.
I find personally surprising and positively surprising about what you're sharing here is that I've got more friends in banking based on my background, and it seems to me anecdotally, it's obviously not a scientific survey, that the banks have been a bit more unprepared and have difficulty making the decisions that you at Sompo made, where everybody is working from home, so they needed many more people still to remain in the office. In my mind, I always said the banks are a little bit more advanced in technology than the insurance companies. But hearing this radical switch, and clearly there needs to be the technology also that supports it, is really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's a new world. It's a new technological world, and we see how it's going to be adopted. We call it the new normal. Everybody's calling it the new normal, even in Japan. So I think it will give companies a chance to really be, innovated and digitalized. We are living in Japan as foreigners. We'll see how many things can be digitalized like we see in our home countries. And I think it's a good chance for Japan to develop. And of course, security is the foundation of anything digital. So I'm really looking forward to see what will happen next.
In a way, Japan had been a little bit safe in cybersecurity terms because there's still so much paper in the service sector in particular.
Yeah.
Right? Banking and insurance, it's still all paper and faxes. And once everything becomes digital, then you get hacked and, of course, much more exposure. So take it back to the cybersecurity world. There are people out there who would say there's a cyber war going on, and there's the US and Russia and North Korea. Many people would view Israel as leading nation in cybersecurity, also in the government and defense forces. Maybe we'll start with the global view. What's your global view of the players? And then we'll move to Japan specifically.
I think you have today 5 or 6 top nations in cybersecurity: the US, China, Russia, UK, France, and Israel. I think all the others are a step behind. There was a really big cyber attack last month, I think actually this month in Israel. I'm not sure it was published in the foreign news, but I think it's a game changer. There was an attack on Israel water system. It failed, of course. But this kind of attack, it's actually like a war declaration because it's an attack that can cause death. And I think this is the first time that this kind of attack happened. And I'm, of course, very happy that it was defended by Israel, but that's a really globally an interesting issue. And I think it's also going to change. And it happened during the COVID period. Globally, I think that's going to be very interesting. I got a report from my partners. Variant is an Israeli-American company, one of the leading in intelligence. And the report was very interesting. By the way, you can download it from our website. But it says that some of the attacks there's a growth in attack on hospitals because the situation makes hospitals a weak link, and cyber criminals see it and they want to get advantage of it. There's a growth, I think, by 20% of attacks in hospitals globally. There's an increase in general in numbers of offensive campaign. We talked about changing the work environment of working from home, and I think it's a risk for many companies as well. The remote work, there's an increase in phishing emails, there's an increase in mail spam as the first target vector. A lot of companies are not prepared to work from home, especially I think in Japan. How do you secure your access to your organization remotely? Those kind of things will define the next few months, maybe years, for making a better preparation for that.
Many of the public utilities are also poorly protected. And sometime in the US, if I look at the electricity grid in the US, it's creaking infrastructure. And when was it, 2011 or 12 or so, when we had an outage in the whole Northeast and New York without electricity. And you think about these things happening possibly during a crisis like we're in now. If anybody attacks the grid there, I mean, we're multiplying the number of casualties very rapidly. So it's a great concern.
Scary, yeah.
Japan specifically, we have now one more year to get prepared. The Olympics, hopefully then in 2021. They've always been seen as a prime target for hackers who want to become famous. How much more famous can you get but to bring down an Olympic event, like the opening ceremony, for example? What's your perspective on the preparedness? And obviously, one more year will help. What needs to still get done to be comfortable?
That's interesting. I think the Olympic Games were the biggest motivation for the preparation of Japan when it comes to cybersecurity. Good communication, the Olympic Committee when I was working at the embassy, but in the last 2 years, I wasn't a part of it. I know there are a lot of good guys there, very smart guys. I saw a part of the preparation, but I think what you said was correct. The public infrastructure, I'm not sure that Japan is already set there. So I guess they will continue to do more protecting those infrastructure. I think that's the biggest gap. So a lot of preparation on the IT system. I didn't see a lot on the operation technology systems or was not involved in it. So I think that's the biggest challenge for the next year for Japan.
And so maybe to round it out, there's the technology side of cybersecurity, but there's also obviously human side, especially in phishing, as you mentioned, and needs to be a continuous training element of making people educated and aware that when they get an email, that they look at the header, that they check links before they click them, if they click them at all. Other programs that you're providing that help training the humans on it, or that you maybe even run inside of Sompo itself?
Yes, you're absolutely right. This is the first and very important attack vector, and many enterprises should prepare. Training is, of course, one of them. We are providing email phishing training to employees in different ways. One is consulting, and the other one is digitized. We're working with another Israeli partner. It's called Iron Scales, one of the leading email protection companies in the world. And apart from their platform is phishing email training. So we are providing that as well.
Excellent. Well, you're in a super exciting market that's only bound to grow, unfortunately to some extent, because there's so much hacking going on and criminal activity. It sounds like a great business to be in to grow for the next 10 years. So we wish you best of luck. Thank you very much for taking the time for the Tokyo FinTech podcast.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Hope we can do that again.